And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome aboard. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region, and this is your Alaska Marine Weather Outlook on Friday, June 20th, 2025. And happy solstice, summer solstice at that. It officially arrives this early Friday evening at 6:42 p.m. Alaska Daylight Time. And of course, with the warmer temperatures we've seen, especially the past week, a massive melt-off of the snowpack across the Brooks Range North Slope resulted in some flooding on the major rivers of the North Slope. All of that runoff water has now made it to the Beaufort Sea coastline, and it is going to help to break up some of this shore ice here as we go through the coming weekend and into next week, as warm temperatures are expected to persist, especially over the northeastern quadrant of the mainland as we go through now and the end of the month. Meanwhile, though, we've had large areas of open water, lower Chukchi and more so also developing off of Point Lay, and we only can expect further retreat of the ice and melting as we head through the next couple of weeks here, with summer now in full swing. Today, the arrival with the solstice, it's a more of astronomical summer, but we just happen to have this time around also temperatures, summer temperatures to correspond with that. So the interesting note is we've had this strong low come up out of the North Pacific. It was down near 982 millibars and it had a broad wind field, a gale force low. It's now going to be located late this Friday night, early Saturday morning, just north of the central Aleutians, with this occluded front arcing north and eastward ahead of it. That front will gradually weaken, as will the low into the day Saturday and for sure by Sunday. Still these thermal troughs due to the warmer temperatures there across the interior into northwest Canada. Drier conditions along the Gulf Coast, especially northern Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. So we have much warmer temperatures going to shape up here through the Panhandle Saturday and even into Sunday. Still, the thermal troughs linger across the interior on a Saturday, but this low just north of the eastern Aleutians, this front will come a little further north, spread some showers or areas of lighter rain along the YK deltas, west coast areas, but winds not quite as strong, falling below gale force. And then certainly by Sunday, further weakening of this feature, so definitely a bit of its former self. There will be another low and occluded front serve as a kicker to help push this system out as we head into Monday. Otherwise, still looks like pretty decent, generally dry and very warm temperatures across the Panhandle for Sunday. So on Saturday, for the inner channels of the Panhandle, kind of a mixed bag of winds. Southeast 10 knots, Lynn Canal, north-northwest, Stevens Passage down through Dixon Entrance, 10 knots, waves a foot or two. Outer coast, a little more wind outside of Cross Sound, down off of Sitka and Craig. Northwest winds 20-25 knots, swell 6-7 feet, and then westerly winds maybe as much as 20 knots up toward Cape Suckling. And on Sunday, those winds turn southerly within the inner channels, 10 knots, waves a foot or two for the outer coast. Outside of Cross Sound, down off of Sitka and Craig, generally northwest winds right around 20 knots. More of a variable wind, 5 to 10 knots outside of Yakutat Bay toward Cape Suckling, waves maybe 4 or 5 feet. Prince William Sound Saturday, we'll see variable winds, 10 knots, waves a foot or two. Outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance, look for variable winds, 10 knots, waves 4 or 5 feet. And then coming on down, Cook Inlet, winds southwesterly, upper Cook Inlet toward Turnagain Arm, Cadet Arm. But then north winds off of Anchor Point at about 10 knots, and then east-southeast winds to 20 knots, Kamishak Bay, and in here through Barren Islands and the Kennedy Entrance. On Sunday, winds will be variable from Kayak Island outside of Hinchinbrook Entrance all the way out along the Kenai coast to northeast of Kodiak Island, waves 3-4 feet. Variable winds within Prince William Sound to 10 knots, waves just a foot or two. And then within Cook Inlet, southeast winds 15 knots, lower Cook Inlet. South winds off of Anchor Point, turning southwesterly, upper Cook Inlet, especially as you get north of Kenai, and waves just 3-4 feet at best. On Saturday, Kodiak Island will see south-southeast winds at 15 knots. And on the North Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, look for south winds 20 to 25 knots. And for areas on the Bering side, 20 to 25 knot southeast to south winds. Waves could be locally as high as 10, 11 feet as you get off of False Pass. And then on Sunday, generally south winds expected. Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, all the way down along the North Pacific side of the peninsula, 15 to maybe 20 knots off of False Pass. Winds again will be more southeasterly out of wider expanse of Bristol Bay down to Cold Bay, 15 to 20 knots. The eastern Aleutians, we have the low center just north of Atka, so we have variable winds there. But ahead of it, south winds of 25 to 30 knots, strongest toward Dutch Harbor on Alaska. On the backside of the circulation, we find winds turning more north-northwesterly, 20 to 25 knots. And then on Sunday, the weakening feature is up here in the lower Bering, and ahead of it, south-southwest winds 20 to 25 knots, turning more westerly. Surface, as we get through the central Aleutians, 15 knots, and then once we get west of Adak, winds try to go back to the west-southwest, 25 to 30 knots, strongest there to 30 knots, Kiska to Shemya. Now along the southwest coast and Kuskokwim Bay, Bristol Bay to the Pribilofs, winds will be southeast 20 to 25 knots on Saturday. Offshore flow east-southeast winds 15 to 20 knots off the lower Yukon coast and Norton Sound. Waves up that way 2-3 feet. And then for Sunday, winds out of Norton Sound along the lower Yukon coast, Emonic down through Hooper Bay, easterly 10 to 15 knots. Look for southeast winds 15 to 20 knots within Kuskokwim, Bristol Bay, and up through the Pribilofs. Waves generally 3-4 feet as you get out into these away from the immediate near shore. And then for the west side of the Seward Peninsula for Saturday, winds will be west offshore easterly 15 knots. Look for southeast winds to 10 knots off of the areas around Savunga and Gamble. Waves maybe 2-3 feet. As we go up through the Chukchi Sea, winds will generally be out of the north-northeast 10 to 15 knots. And waves just running 2-3 feet where you have ice-free areas. Along the Arctic coast or the Beaufort Sea coastline, look for wind with an easterly component to 10 knots. The ice still there in place. And then for Sunday, winds will be east-northeast, 15-20 knots, Kaktovik through Prudhoe Bay, where there's still a fair amount of ice. But again, with all of that snowmelt, freshwater runoff, it is really helping along these river deltas to open up the ice. And down, coming down through the Chukchi Sea coastline, Utqiagvik to off of Point Lay, northeast winds to 10 knots, but those winds then flip around and become southerly. The lower Chukchi Sea winds generally south at 15 knots with waves a few feet, and then along the west side of the Seward Peninsula, including Wales, Port Clarence, and on over toward Gamble and Savunga, winds will be southerly, southeasterly at 10 knots, waves running 2-3 feet on Sunday.